Hey Amarillo, I'm Skylar Gallup, and you're listening to Hey Amarillo, the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. We record each week at the beautiful offices of Rosenbach Contractors, experts in high-end design and construction, creating stunning, functional spaces through both new builds and remodels. Today's guest is Sonja Clark. Sonja is the site leader at Bell Helicopter, so it's her job to keep all those oars rowing in the right direction to contribute to the safety and security of our country. Sonja is a strong and supportive leader at Bell and in our community, and we talk about what it was like rising to that level as oftentimes the only woman at the table, as well as the history and importance of her job and the company she works for. Here's Sonja. Sonja Clark, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excited for the conversation.
Likewise.
We begin at the beginning around here. Where are you from?
Grew up in Canadian, K through 12, and then moved to West Texas A&M, and then have just remained in the area ever since.
What got you to WT?
Well, it was one of those things where you go where your friends are going. And so two of my best girlfriends were like, let's just go here and check it out. And I was all for it. Grew up a Red Raider fan. And so I always envisioned that I would go to Tech. But when my girlfriends were going elsewhere, I thought, why not give it a shot?
Why not? Was there anything through high school that like you took into motivation into college? Like you're gonna be, you're gonna be this. Like what did you go into WT thinking your road was gonna be?
I wasn't sure. There was early on a conversation that I had had, and somebody mentioned the word business law. And I thought, ooh, that sounds fancy. So I would be good at that because I could talk, and certainly, according to my parents, I could argue. And so I headed that direction just because I felt like I needed to declare something. And then after my first business law class, had a conversation with the attorney afterwards, and really kind of figured out that maybe wasn't in my best interest for what I wanted. And so then that became my quest for, okay, now what do I do? So it became very much a business decision of where could I go, that I would always have a job. And at the time I was married to my kid's dad, and he was going to be a coach. And so it just made sense that nursing was where I landed, because I was always going to have more than likely a place to land, no matter where that adventure took us.
What was your experience like at WT?
Oh, it was incredible. And I have an amazing piece of obviously how I am today as a result of the education that I received, the network that was around, but the support. So being able to have a conversation with anyone, whether it was an instructor, a TA, a GA, the president of the university, everybody was accessible and truly invested in helping the students succeed, no matter what their success looked like. It was really the first time in my life where I saw that there were people that were different-minded, because growing up in Canadian, everybody that I was surrounded with, we were all like-minded. We were all going to do the same thing. You knew everybody's first, middle, and last name and their birthdays. And then I got to WT, and it really opened up a whole new perspective for me.
Well, and nursing school is not like a walk in the park.
It was not.
Yeah.
And whenever I was applying to nursing school, WT was really on the rise. There was going to be a significant wait list, and they didn't have really a path for, okay, if you don't get in this semester, what are you going to do next? And so I remember talking to the dean. They didn't have an answer because they were still trying to figure it out for themselves on how they were going to handle just the enormous number of applicants that were coming in.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. Was that because the nursing program maybe was newer, or was it just like up and coming? Because I know it's very, very lauded now. Was that like in its comeuppance at that time?
It was.
Cool.
It was. So it's an up and comer, and the nursing shortage was really starting to be a conversation piece, and so people knew that it was available, definitely in demand, and so that increased the competition. And so I remember going in and arranging a conversation with the president of the university. And I remember having the conversation with my dad. He's like, you're going to do what? I was like, well, yeah, like they need a plan. Because, and it was really, yes, they needed a plan, but I needed to know that in the event I didn't get in, like, what was I going to do next? How long was I going to have to wait? When are we opening up, additional faculty roles so that more students could get in? And so didn't have to go that route. I got in the first try, so thanks the Lord. But it was an incredible path, and a wonderful education.
And did you become a nurse?
I did. So I started out in labor and delivery at Northwest Texas Healthcare System, and did that for a few years. And then I knew early on I wasn't going to be a floor nurse forever.
Okay.
And so I went back and got my master's in administration, and then continued in the healthcare industry for several years.
Yeah. What did you love about nursing, and what was not right for you about nursing?
I loved the people. I loved getting to pour into them and to be a helper, helping, and then also helping my fellow nurses. And so it was really a team environment that I was able to thrive. When you're good at something, you kind of get to function in that sweet spot of you're good and you love it. It was just so rewarding. But in labor and delivery, there were times that it wasn't always positive, because there are some sad situations. And it was in those moments that you hate to say you found your calling, but I was able to serve and support those ladies and those families in those times that weren't necessarily positive, and love on them, and give them some hope, and just really treat that situation with the dignity and respect that they needed. So I really loved all aspects of it, but I knew that the physical aspect of it, and wanting to take a greater leadership role was really where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is amazing work. I love some nurses. So you moved kind of into administration.
I
right?
did.
Yeah.
I did, yes. So originally I worked for Alliance, the PPO network. So worked with physicians and doing some contract negotiation. And then I transitioned out to be the administrative director for the J.O. Wyatt Clinic. And so I did that for about 4 years.
What is that?
It is at the time, and it still functions largely in this capacity, it was the indigent care clinic. And so we had about 5,500 members of the Amarillo community that we were able to serve for all aspects of their healthcare needs. We had pharmacy, lab, x-ray for a period of time. We would have specialty clinics that would come in. Sometimes it was physicians from Texas Tech. We had a great partnership with them, or even community private physicians would come out and host specialty clinic, but people got all of their primary care right there, largely where they lived. And it's truly a blessing for the Amarillo community, and certainly for that population.
Yeah, super impactful.
Yes.
So along this time, are you like climbing the ladder, right? You're like sharpening your skills in leadership and running teams and managing people. In this time in your career, what were some lessons? Where did you learn them? What were maybe some eye-opening, or maybe things you got wrong along the way that you said, I don't want to do that again? That didn't work.
Yeah, there were a lot. But I was young and energetic and just wanted to do things. So growing up in Canadian, I had the opportunity to do all things, right? A small community, you just embed yourself and you're engaged in. If there's an organization, you're a part of it.
Because there's not enough kids.
Right.
If everybody just does one, that's right.
I remember our basketball coach, he would say, if you're going to play basketball, you're also going to run track, because he was the track coach. So that's just what you did. But that really kind of set the pace for for being busy and doing things and being engaged. And so to say I didn't know any better, I did not spend a lot of time planning and doing and strategizing what my next steps were going to be. I just did. And so I think as far as lessons learned, I would have been more intentional perhaps about my path, although to say that I have a lot of regrets, I really don't, because
Right.
it's led to where I am today. But there are certainly some things that I would have negotiated differently. And then some of the hard lessons, being a young female and just assuming that people are going to have your best interest in mind is not the case. I remember one of, well, little sensitive and still raw, to be honest. A conversation that I'd had whenever I was offered a position, and I had already hired my backfill before I ever had the actual offer in my hand. So when the offer came in, it really wasn't what I expected it to be. And I certainly felt slighted. But at that point, I'd already hired my backfill. So if I had said no to the offer, didn't really then have a place to go. And being a single mom with two kiddos, I felt a little trapped at that point. So yes, there are lessons, and some of them harder than others.
When you were coming up in your career and professionally, did you experience differences because of your gender, especially as you started to assume higher leadership roles?
I did. And some at Northwest, but I would say a large part of that, I think, was because of my age. Because there were a considerable number of females in the healthcare industry.
Okay.
But where I really felt the difference was after I'd made the transition out to Bell. And I would look around, and I was the lone female around a table of 10, 15, 20 males. And that's really where I started noticing the difference.
And what did that look like?
At first, I would say, again, I was just going through the motions. I was just doing because that's what I thought you did. And actually, it was a conversation that we were asked to fill out a little, it was like National Women's Day or something. And it was, how many times are you the only person around the table? And I thought, oh, well, I don't know. So that's whenever I started paying attention and really looking. I always knew I was kind of the underdog and felt like I had to fight a little bit more, prove myself, work a little harder and longer, and do more and do all the extra, be extra. To even have a level playing field. But it really wasn't until probably 15 years ago that I was able to identify that and start giving it a voice of absolutely there are still differences. And as hard as we work to say that we treat each other equally or equitably, that is not always the case.
And so taking us to the work that you do today, you are a site leader at Bell. So I don't know how many women are around the table out there at Bell now, but you're kind of the top dog of the tables out there. And I wonder, first, I think what took you out of healthcare? How'd you get to Bell? It was a bit of a jump.
It was.
Yeah,
It was.
with
It was
your
a huge,
nursing degree.
Yes, huge jump. But the site leader at the time, his name was Roger Williams, and he was looking for somebody to come out and run the environmental health and safety department. And the previous person that was in that role, she was actually a dear friend of mine, and she was getting married and moving off. And she said, they're going to come ask you again. And I said that the timing was right. So I was ready to take a step away from the role that I'd had in healthcare and kind of the path that was taking, getting a little bit imbalanced, if you will, for work and life. And the kids were of the age where I was really ready for something new and different. Went out to Bell and started there in the EHS department.
What year did you go to Bell?
I was moved out there in 2006.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. And so in that 20 years, what is your experience been coming up through Bell? And then I want to talk about Bell itself and some of its really cool history too. But for you coming up, was that, did you walk in the door and say I'm gonna be site leader in 20 years?
No, not exactly. I wasn't sure where it was going to go. I just knew that it was going to be exciting. My dad had a passion for aviation that I never really appreciated, and but I knew that Bell was doing really cool things. They were like the hip and cool kid that had come back to Amarillo. I didn't even know what that really meant at the time, but to be able to create an aircraft that can take off like a helicopter and then fly like an airplane. While that was cool, the mission of saving lives and preserving freedom really spoke to me. So I knew that that was something that I could get behind. And then being able at the Amarillo site level to be able to do my part to keep the employees safe. And then alongside that, my mentality was just what can we do better? How can we do it more efficiently? So that continuous improvement was just kind of how I was wired, and that was a natural fit. So instilling safety and quality in everything that we do, those are core competencies out at Bell. And so it was a great alignment and a great fit. So the path was environmental health and safety, and then moved more into health services. So supporting the team out of the Fort Worth office, and then that role grew into global health services, benefits and wellness. So supporting the entire Bell family all across the globe, and it's been an incredibly rewarding that was a great season. We were able to do some really neat things. We opened a patient-centered medical home on the campus at headquarters, in addition to not only providing their primary care, but it also has an on-site pharmacy. They're now doing physical therapy and really serving that population. And hopefully we'll be able to replicate that at other Bell locations. I know that they've done it at other Textron facilities, but not necessarily other Bell facilities. So again, having a vision of what can we do more and better, that is certainly one of the things. And then after the global health role, transitioned back here to the Amarillo market and served as the HR site leader. And then after I did that for a couple of years, the role opened up to be the Amarillo site lead.
And when was that?
That was in 2021.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so just finishing up my 5th year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Give me an idea about what is the global footprint of Bell?
It is truly global. So we
Yeah.
have over 8,000 employees all over the world. When you start looking at the European markets, I'll say that the non-North America. So we've got manufacturing facilities. Yes, here in the States, we are headquartered out of Fort Worth, but we have a pretty big footprint up in Mirabel, Canada, and then down in Mexico, outside of Chihuahua. We have customer support service and do some commercial business out of Piney Flats, Tennessee. And then we have somewhat of a second headquarters up in Washington, D.C. So we certainly have a presence there, along with our other Textron business units.
And I think we know that Bell is one of the largest employers in our community. How many employees do you oversee?
So the Amarillo facility, we have over, well, we're pushing about 700, but we have over 1,000 employees, contractors, subcontractors, vendors that come in. So we say we have about 1,000 that come in and out of our gates every day. But of that, I have about a third of the organization for the site support that would be, you would say, hard-lined into my organization. Then we have a director of operations, and then we have a very large supply chain operation that buy for all of our products all across the globe. So those are really the 3 arms. And then being the site lead, I have the opportunity to really ensure that the collaboration and the strategy for the entire site, so that we're all moving the same direction. And then there's a lot of our employees that are housed here in Amarillo that report directly into Fort Worth. And so I would say indirectly support them.
You kind of went to where my brain was going. How do you wrangle all that? That seems it's just from a number standpoint, that's a large organization to be site lead of, and I know that there's some complexity around the different contracts and organizations and entities and things. But how do you work every day to make sure people are all rowing in the same direction?
Well, that's what brings me energy. So at the end of the day, whenever I can look back and say, we did well today because we connected these people or these dots, we're ensuring the alignment and the collaboration that those cross-functional teams, it is. It's fun for me. So there's a lot of networking, a lot of conversation. You're on a Teams meeting and you're texting somebody on the side so that you can real time give answers and connect people so that we can continue to break down barriers and keep the ball moving forward.
Well, and it sounds like back to that place, the sweet spot of doing something that you're good at and that brings you joy.
It is. It is. I'm very blessed to get to do what I get to do today.
This episode is sponsored by the Amarillo Art Institute at Arts in the Sunset. If you haven't been, this place is an amazing center for Amarillo's vibrant art scene. They have monthly events, including the First Friday Art Walk, which showcases the artists they have in residence, and there are some incredibly talented people with all sorts of wares and mediums there. They also offer classes for children and adults in things such as glass blowing, weaving, and pottery. All of it really is just so cool. Check them out on Facebook. That's Arts in the Sunset. Sonja, I think leadership at that level is not by accident. How have you developed your leadership skills? I mean, is it as simple as like lessons learned along the way, or do you, in fact, I mean, do you have an executive coach? Have you taken leadership courses? Like, what is that like continued learning to get to a leadership level such as yours?
All of the above. So early on in my career, I was just fascinated and could not get enough in that space of self-development. So whether it was books or a course, I was always wanting to do more or do the next event or offering. As I have continued to grow in that space, sometimes you need to live the life lessons and experience that so that then you can share those lessons with others, and that offers growth as well. And then, yes, I've continued to invest and be invested in through different leadership trainings. There was one that I went through even a couple of years ago. We met quarterly. There was a very small cohort. There were 12 of us, and it's called ELI, so the Executive Leadership Institute. And along with that, yes, you have an executive coach. And we still stay in contact. But one of the things that I, as silly as it sounds, the more I find that I have conversations with those that are the up and comers, whether it's our ladies in the Women's Leadership Forum, or I do have some mentoring, some ladies that I mentor outside of work. Having conversations with those people continue to refine me because it causes me to pause and reflect, and you have to be intentional about the advice that you give, because people are really looking to you for, man, what did you do? Or I have this situation, how would you handle it? This is what I did, what could I have done differently? So whenever women mostly are who I have those conversations with, but whenever they're open and they're asking me those questions, I feel a certain sense of obligation to give them wise or sage advice.
Is that like a level of pressure for you?
In some instance, yes, because I always think, oh gosh, here's what I would do, or have you tried this? But understanding that I'm not going to know the fullness of all the intricacies of what they're facing. Oftentimes, people leave out details that they may not think are important, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that was huge. Like if we had maybe sliced and diced that a little bit more, I think we could have come about this very, very differently. So helping people reflect back and see opportunities that maybe they didn't see initially it's kind of fun though whenever you're dissecting it backwards.
Yeah. How do you view How do you view your role as a leader now for women coming up, maybe in Bell or in the community in general?
I feel like it's one of opportunity where I have the opportunity to share what I've learned. To be real honest, there have been so many times that I thought I don't have anything special to share. It's just who I am and what I've done, and it's taken me a while to even get past that barrier of people need to hear your story regardless of what your story is. Everybody can learn something from somebody else, so being able to use the tests that I've gone through, and share how that has shaped me. Hopefully others can use that lesson and avoid some pitfalls and lessons of their own, or if they do fall, maybe it's just a little bruise and not a deep cut. And then really being able to share the experiences, that in and of itself has power, and to let ladies know that you're not alone and that others have gone before, and done the same thing, or similar, then I think there's power in that.
Yeah, I think kind of like watching you, just kind of for myself, watching a prominent female leader in the community, you are not guarded. I think you're very open. I think it's one of the things that I really enjoy about kind of like being in spaces with you is like you're pretty much like this is who you get, and and I can see you kind of turning around and holding that door open. Is that a character trait of yours? Or is that something you intentionally like come to work with vulnerability, lead with vulnerability?
I think it was both. So I think it started out, as what you see is what you get, and I didn't realize that I needed to hide anything. And then that became hurtful in some situations because people took advantage of that, whereas they called it naivety. For me, it was, like you said, kind of opening up that space to be vulnerable. I will kind of insert that there was a group of ladies, at work, out at Bell. We called ourselves the LBH, so the Ladies of Bell Helicopter. And we came together and shared experiences. We still maintain an incredible friendship. And we travel, we go on trips once a year, and we're all in different places. I'm the only one that still works for Bell.
Oh, wow.
And it was really in that space, that they have allowed me to refine that gift. They're all younger. We have probably almost a 15-year age gap between the youngest and the oldest one, and it's in that space that I really saw the value of sharing your experiences, because people genuinely want to know, they want to grow, and they offered me a safe space to share that. And then in turn, they are lifting me up and encouraging me to become a better version of myself.
I love that, I think we know about the strength of a room full of women, right? A group of women is quite mighty. But the idea that you can feed and be fed and just, yeah, you can do this. You can show up with authenticity.
Yes. And I think that that's one of the gifts that I have is to be able to bring that authentic version of myself to work. I don't hide my faith. I feel like God has led me to where I am for a reason and a purpose, and I share that, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I think that has opened doors to conversations that people are also looking for that.
So I think that Bell Helicopter is pretty cool and interesting. And I want to talk a little bit about if people don't know, I think maybe if you're not into aviation or, whatever, it's like just, it's that big building out on the way to the airport. But Bell is actually like a huge part of our country's history, like going back like to the Hueys, and you guys are doing some really cool stuff now. And I know that part of it is because I come from an aviation family, but kind of brag on your company for a little bit on
Okay.
some of the cool stuff that you guys have done, contributing, as you noted, to our national security and war and peacetime, and are looking at in the horizon.
You bet. So we are over 90 years old. We are headquartered in Fort Worth, Texas now, but what started out as almost somebody's hobby has grown into multi-billion dollar company. And we have the opportunity here in the Amarillo market. We have delivered the Hueys, both the Y and the Z. So the Cobra, which is an attack helicopter, or the Yankee, which is a utility transport. So whenever you go back, my first experience was seeing it on MASH.
Yeah.
That legit is our aircraft.
I mean, it was an icon of the Vietnam War, for better or for worse, the way that people kind of internalized that conflict. It was the Huey.
It was, and there was a distinct sound, and people, when they heard it, that the blades whipping and beating the air into submission. There is a very distinct sound that actually it carries still today, but it was something that everybody knew, and almost that people could rally around. Whenever we were at our peak in Vietnam, they call it the High Bay down in the DFW area. They were producing hundreds of aircraft a month, and just rolling them off the line to ensure that our warfighters had the ability to do what they needed to do. And then fast forward, Bell came back. So Bell did have a presence in the Amarillo market until the late 80s. And then it came back in 1999. So after a very competitive process, the Amarillo team had come together, the city, the Economic Development Corporation, Amarillo College. They talk about AT&T offering them, phone service. Like like everybody wanted to ensure that Bell knew that they had a home here in Amarillo.
Now, did Bell leaving align at all with the base closure? Yeah.
Highly aligned, yes.
Okay.
And then whenever they came back, it was specifically to do the V-22. So we became the final assembly and the delivery center for the V-22 Osprey.
That's the Osprey, yeah.
Yes. And then since then, so what started off as one 4-bay flight hangar, we've grown to over 1.5 million square feet of operational space. We've had 7 different expansions over the past 26 years, and I see additional future growth in the pipeline.
Yeah, you guys just in the last couple of years have announced some new stuff you're building out there.
We have. So we're very honored to be partners with the Army in modernizing their future. So truly, the Army aviation, they're ready to pioneer and to pivot, and so we will be replacing all the Black Hawk aircraft that are currently in service. So this will be a multi-generational award. So it's the largest for Army. Certainly it's the largest for Bell and for Textron. And I think that it says a whole lot about what the Amarillo team, not just the Bell team, but certainly I like to brag on the Amarillo team and us being able to produce, to deliver, not only assemble, but to deliver aircraft for the warfighter. Right now it's called the MV-75. We will be having a new name. They'll give it its common name.
Something cooler like Black Hawk or Osprey.
So we have a little pot as to what we think it's going to be and what we know it's not going to be. Certainly can't share that, but we have heard it is not going to be Winnebago. That was as much as we've gotten out of it.
We've crossed out Winnebago. All right. So is that just from replacing all of the Black Hawks? Because I think for a relative lay person, like the Black Hawk helicopters are like really well known, and they're in all of the movies and all of that. Is this just technological advances? We're just building better suited aircraft for what the Army's need is, or?
It does definitely have a lot to do with the technology and the advancements that have been made, but the fight that we're fighting today is different than the fight we had back in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. And so we need aircraft that we can support the warfighter going further and faster. because they need to get in and they need to get out. And whenever you think of certain adversaries, it's not the same playing field that we've had even a decade ago.
How much, and I suspect the answer is quite a bit, how much confidentiality do you guys work under out there on like what the not Winnebago is capable of doing?
Absolutely. So it is all confidential. And while we have things that we can talk about, certainly we allow a large part of that, the majority of it, the customer leads out with. So when the Army says, you can share this, then we can. So certainly there's quite a bit that's out there for the public at this point, but we try to hold our cards pretty close hold to ensure that the technology doesn't get out. There's certain level, we've got multiple different levels of security clearance, but it's not something we want to just throw out there on the web. If others have put it out there, then we can share it, but you're probably not going to get much of it from us.
It's probably a good thing.
Yes.
So y'all are building the helicopters. Does that mean that y'all are developing the technology?
They did, yes.
At Bell?
At Bell.
I had never thought of it in that way, like whatever crazy technology that
Yes.
you're going to let the customer lead on
Yes.
is developed out there. That's cool.
Yes. So we engineer and design these aircraft solutions. And so now to say that we do it all by ourselves is certainly not the case. We
Sure.
have partners that come along with us. So there are some people in the market that are, maybe they have the software that we need, so we partner with them. There are certain components of the aircraft that they're the expert on. So we have a handful of partners that right now we're calling Team Flera, and we did the same with a partnership on the V-22. So for that technology, we partnered with Boeing. So while it's the Bell Boeing V-22, we had certain critical partners like Rolls-Royce for the engine, or whatever the different parts would be.
That's cool. I think in my mind I had thought about Bell being an assembly location, which it certainly is, but I hadn't thought about the development of this like leading edge technology that the Army needs to meet today's demand.
Yes. And in fact, they've been working on today's solution for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
Right. So they have a lab, they have engineers, and it's almost like they have a playground, if you will, where they just get together and they get to brainstorm and come up with different solutions. So what had happened, or what can happen, is that the Army comes and we help them say, this is where we feel like it's going. Mm-hmm. We have very high-ranking retired people on staff that have been part of all branches of the military that were embedded, and they know not just what worked, but they know what can work better. And so they're also helping us identify what those key indicators would be, what the aircraft need to do, and how we can best deploy the weapon systems.
Well, that's cool.
It is, right? So when you think, when people see the aircraft flying around, they're like, oh, that's really neat. Look at that. But there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it is really very neat. Talk to me about the pride that you feel in your job.
I never served in any branch of the military. So I would say that this is about as close to it as I would be at this point. We truly are a part of national security. And we're a deterrent, so hopefully people never have to use our products. But when and if they do, we want them to be the best. And to be able to say that we were part of that, and to put our thumbprint on something that is going to go, again, save lives and preserve freedom that I myself never fought for, it's pretty impactful.
If you're starting or growing a small business and need some cash, let me tell you about Amarillo Venture Capital. They are a Hey Amarillo sponsor. They're locally owned, and what makes them different is they don't just invest in businesses. They invest in people. So whether you need $5,000 or $50,000, they offer flexible asset-based loans, often with funding in a week or less. And it's not just the money. They can connect you with their local network of legal, accounting, and business resources to help you succeed. Check them out at AmarilloVentureCapital.com. All right, I'm back with Sonja Clark. Sonja, this is part of the show I call 8 Straight. I've got 8 fast ones for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, when you think of Amarillo 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
Well, my hope is that we've kept our spirit. So we've got grit, our generosity, our vibe, if you will, while growing with some real intention. We want to have, well, I will say that we have so much opportunity in front of us, and my hope is that we've been strategic in how we've used that opportunity. I want to see a city that has expanded thoughtfully, and we've created more opportunities for our young people. I want them to stay local, if you will. But I think, too, we're going to have to invest in some places that we can bring everybody together so that we can build a future that still feels like Amarillo, but maybe just a stronger, more connected version of who we are now.
Yeah, I like the intentionality, the strategy,
Yes.
That's great. When was the last time you went to Paladaro Canyon?
Well, I am embarrassed to say that it has been too long. I knew that this question was coming, and I planned on getting out there, and it just didn't happen. But I do have a plan to get out there with my son, daughter-in-law, and my grandgirls.
Your grandgirls,
Yes.
that's right.
Yes.
Well, this time of year, you can use the excuse that it's been cold.
Right. Thank you.
It's been cold.
Okay.
And it has, in fact. Other than wind, what does this area have too much of?
Well, normally I would say the orange cones that are all over town. But knowing that that is a symbol of growth and some renewal, I won't climb on that bandwagon today. So I'm going to say that we have too many beautiful sunrises and sunsets that get taken for granted. I have the opportunity to drive out and I see the sunrise pretty much every day, and it's beautiful. And sometimes I feel sorry for people that don't have the opportunity to be in this part of the world to get to see those beautiful sunsets and sunrises.
And what do we not have enough of?
Spaces that bring people together. So I'd love to see more of that the third spaces. And it's a coffee shop that's mom friendly. It's the pet and kid-friendly patios, so people can come together really without an agenda and just have some family-friendly hangouts. I love the idea of having those spaces where community just naturally forms, and I think that there's some sweetness that comes along with that.
It's hard in a driving city like ours.
It is.
You got to get some walking in.
Yes.
Yeah. What's your favorite local building?
So I love the beauty of the Santa Fe building. And then there is the historic federal building that's on 7th and Taylor. So it used to be called the Coble building, and it was built in 1916, and it is just lovely inside. So Amarillo National Bank now owns it, and it has the old holding cell whenever they used to do the federal court. I think it was actually originally built to be the post office and a federal court building. So it still has the old holding cell in there, old marble floors.
So this is the silver A and B building, not the black one, or no?
Keep coming south.
Okay.
So it's a very small, they actually own the whole block, but it's just a 3-story building. It does have a basement, so there's a little private speakeasy, if you will, down, yes, that some of the attorneys have lovingly named Sock It To 'Em. It's adorable. So from Napoli's, if you look straight north from Napoli's, it's right there on that corner of 7th and Taylor. So it takes up between 6th and 7th and Taylor. Yeah, it is a beautiful.
Take a little field trip.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's a beautiful
That's a
little
good
building.
One. What's your favorite local restaurant?
Well, I have a few. So date night has always been OHMS, although I am spreading my wings some, and certainly we do Crush, and then Cellar 55 has been a new popular one for us. And if we're in a hurry, we hit Town Square, we hit the sushi house there. For lunch, business meetings, I do Crush a lot, or if I'm with my gal pals, we hit Faves. And then just for an everyday eating, Sharky's.
Solid list.
Thanks.
Really nice. Okay, you have 4 hours to spend in Amarillo with someone who's never been here. What are y'all doing?
Okay, so it's going to be tough to squeeze it all in, so we may have to utilize a helicopter to get us here and there. But we're going to hit some of the normal tourist attractions. So we'll Cadillac Ranch, go down to Paladura Canyon, which again would be amazing from the air.
Yeah.
Hit the Big Texan Steakhouse and see someone take on the challenge up on the stage and visit their gift shop. But then, maybe hit up the Amarillo Museum of Art or do a first walk out in Sunset Center. And then certainly we could do some shopping over in Wolflin, but we'll probably finish on 6th Street and maybe pop into certainly some antique stores, hit up Neon Moon or Tulum's, and then complete the walk by stopping by Texas Ivy and seeing the Route 66 Visitor Center there with Dora, and then gotta polish it off with a burger from Golden Lot.
It's a great day.
Hey, thanks.
I like the combination of the must hits and like the cool stuff is really nice. And the helicopter.
And the helicopter, right? You got to throw a helicopter right in there.
That's right. What do you think people get wrong about Amarillo?
I think they underestimate the ambition here, or that just because we're not necessarily a major market, that people think that we are simple-minded, because we are anything but that. There is so much forward momentum and people who truly are building thriving lives right here in Amarillo that it's incredible. We live out the word community here. People are generous. They come together. They support one another. And that's not just for Amarillo. It really is the entire Panhandle region.
I like to conclude my episodes by offering my guests the opportunity to endorse something. Anything that a listener may not be aware of, may not have tried. What would you have them know?
Well, I've thought a lot about this question because I don't want to offend anybody or leave anybody out, because we have so much here in the Amarillo area to be showcased. But the one thing that is incredibly important to me is having the opportunity to give back. And we have plenty of avenues to do that, whether it is directly with nonprofits and giving of your time and your talents directly to a not-for-profit organization. But the one thing that I would give a shout out to are we're blessed to have several foundations. So I feel like these groups are making large impacts behind the scenes. So whether it's the Amarillo Area Foundation, West Texas A&M Foundation, Bivens, Amarillo College, I know that there are several others, but they are doing amazing work. Their staff, the volunteers, the agencies that they support, everybody is truly living for the purpose of changing lives, and the people that invest and give back, largely, like I said, behind the scenes, they are true difference makers.
Yeah, foundations are a really good way to make your dollar, your energy, any kind of like go pretty far in our communities.
Agreed.
Sonja, thank you so much for coming into the Hey Amarillo podcast. I've enjoyed it.
Skylar, thank you for having me.
Looking for the perfect date night? The Amarillo Symphony presents Romance at the Symphony, featuring the passion of Romeo and Juliet, the excitement of West Side Story, thrilling music from Gone with the Wind, plus soprano Sarah Beckham Turner singing beloved opera arias. It is perfect for this Valentine's season. Tickets at amarillosymphony.org. That concludes the episode. Thanks to Sonja for the interview. Thanks to the Amarillo Art Institute, Venture Capital, and the Amarillo Symphony for supporting the podcast, and to Broderick Adams for editing every week. Executive producers on this episode are Jim and Barbara Whitten. And thank you for listening. This has been episode 438 of Hey Amarillo. I am Skylar Gallup, and we hope you'll come back next week.